Good morning, everyone. Lots going on as usual. Today's Saturday, September 13th, 2025, and right-wing vengeance, according to the press. That's what happened when Charlie Kirk was killed. It kicked off a whole, want for right-wing vengeance. And what actually happened is candlelight vigils. So yes, those vengeful candlelight vigils, the left or the right is very well known for. That's what happened, and I'll show you that. And I'll show you the left media trying to inflame violence and encourage violence. It's quite something. And they're telling us very clearly what they want the right to do. And the right is just moving on with candlelight vigils. Yesterday, Charlie Kirk's wife made an address at 8 o'clock. And so there's all sorts of news with that. And again, that'll be at the end of the show today. Vindictive government is targeting Big Red for Chris Barber's truck to destroy it years after the Freedom Convoy. It doesn't make any rational sense, but they're going after his truck because they feel harmed by the truck. It seems like a really, really petty thing to do, and it's unfortunate. I've got a couple of tabs on that today. Government grooming gangs operating in Calgary, and so we've seen grooming gangs operating in the United Kingdom, where gangs of East Asian men would generally target 12-year-old girls at schools. And same story in Calgary, so I've got that for you today as well. Chocolate cereal, Count Chocula edition. At the end of the show, I found some Count Chocula yesterday, so I'll review it for you exclusively for paid members. And they're going to censor the internet. They're definitely 100% going to censor the internet. That's coming. So there's lots to get to. Let's get to it. First, Sean Fraser's talking about censoring the internet. So this is 2.5 minutes talking about bail reform. So they're putting the internet censorship in the conversation around public safety, in the conversation about strengthening bail reform, in the conversation about helping keep Canada safe for everybody. And they're going to try and slide this in, and they're going to succeed, man. And it's not going to be clear what you can say. It's not going to be clear what chat rooms you can be in. If you're in a chat room that says things that the government doesn't like, then maybe you can get arrested because you run the chat, but not the person who made the comment because they were just in your chat and they made a bad statement in your chat, and they're going to arrest the person who runs the chat. I don't know. Who knows what's actually going to be in this thing that gets through, but I'm very concerned about this. And the way they're talking about this, it's like, oh, don't worry about it, citizen. We're here to protect you. It's for your safety, comrade. And man, I've been around the block a couple of times, so I've heard that before, and I don't believe him. I don't believe him at all. Here's Sean Fraser.
Country a safer place.
Lisa Mayer, CBC News. You're talking about all this legislation that you're proposing this fall. How soon? Do we have a date we can expect to see some of that?
We should expect to see in the very near future the legislation dealing with intimidation and obstruction of those participating in their faith community, as well as hate crimes more broadly. Next month, we anticipate we will be in a position to table the legislation touching on bail and sentencing. Subsequently, during this parliamentary setting, depending on how efficiently the process of the House works and the collaboration of other parties to advance this legislation to get it done, we expect to see that third piece of legislation tabled later in this parliamentary setting that would deal with intimate partner violence, protecting kids online, and victims in the criminal justice process.
Intimate partner violence, protecting kids online. That's the Online Harms Act. Okay. So they want to get this stuff in, and it is a top priority in the coming months. Next month, they want to have this tabled and passed. So, and Poilievre, what do you think Poilievre's going to do? Okay. First, listen to this. I've already listened to this. I think Poilievre's going to enthusiastically go after all of these and say, yes, the Liberals are doing exactly what's necessary. Brava, Mr. Carney. Brava. Here we go.
I worry for my family. I'll be honest with you. We have had very serious threats to the point where the RCMP decided that it merited protection for my family and I for over a prolonged period of time. And they've been multiple, and they have been serious threats. And I think we need to secure all of our political leaders, not just me. I think all the political leaders and ministers who face real threats according to the RCMP's assessment, they should have protection so that something like this does not happen on our turf here in Canada.
Arguing for more protection for politicians because Canada is a meaningfully more dangerous place because
I worry for my family.
Rhetoric that the media themselves put out, and I'll show you later on in the show. Like during the Charlie Kirk stuff, a whole bunch of people are saying it's good that Charlie Kirk died and so on and so forth. And they're getting fired for it. But the radicalization of the country has happened because of the media talking about, well, we got to punch that Nazi, and, talking about how you have to treat people who disagree with you politically in a violent way because I guess they can't debate and win a debate. And the only way they can win is if they use violence. And so that radicalization has led to a place where college kids who are radicalized to believe that Polyev, because he is on the right and conservative, is an evil person, and so on and so forth. And evil people need to be punched, and so on and so forth. Worse than punched. Milkshaking, remember, from 2019, and worse. All of this is because of the radicalization that has happened. We don't have a normal political discourse anymore. And this is all by design. As Charlie Kirk said, this is a catalyst because happy people who are living in a society that doesn't have all of these problems, which is what our society looked like 20 years ago, won't rise up. But if the society is destroyed and you feel like the government's stealing from you, then you'll rise up against your government, and then you'll demand change, and maybe the change will be communism. And so we're being manipulated to believe that this is out of these people's control, and it's not. What they're doing is encouraging the wild rhetoric, encouraging the violence, and then responding to the violence in a way to almost make the violence increase, right? Make it more inflamed. And it's not helpful, right? And he's saying, oh yeah, my family's been threatened. Yeah, well, look at the rhetoric around everything all the time. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. CBC is reporting Polyev says he worries for his family as political violence concerns grow in Canada and the United States. Way to make Charlie Kirk's assassination about us, Canada. Weird, right? Here is the other part of this, and I wanted to show you examples from this video. You have to go and watch this. This is a 6-part series, I think, 5-part series. I'm on part 4, and this is, I think, an off the books MK Ultra worldwide, Western wide for sure, but worldwide, I think, program to create, like Blackstone from The Bourne Identity or MK Ultra, where you create people who have personalities that are isolated, and then you can activate those personalities, and those personalities are highly trained operatives who are there to kill somebody, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, or do other spy-like work, like Jason Bourne. And I think that there's a call and echo, not a catch and release, but there's people who self-identify and they go and get drugs, and they're given SSRIs, depression drugs, all sorts of pharmaceutical cocktail. So maybe the powers that be work with doctors, maybe they don't work with doctors, maybe it's even higher than that, and just the fact that anybody on SSRIs could start self-identifying online by going to these places being incel forums or gender ideology forums, things like that, firearms forums, things like that. And so these people who self-identify as potential targets have handlers that are waiting for them in the forums. These two meet, and it's like Paul Bernardo and the Mahaffey, the woman, and these two meet, and boom, you've got a cocktail that turns into a murderous cocktail. Same thing. These people know that the people they're interacting with on the forums are easy to manipulate. And so they groom them, they train them, and then they activate them. And I think that that's what's going on. Part of the political violence, not all of the political violence, but part of it, right? You've got a layer of people who are being brainwashed in colleges and things like that. But these people, to radicalize these people, they'd have to, quote, give up maybe their future, right? To go and kill somebody or something like that. So they're not soft targets to actually go and be the operatives, but they'll support the operatives, right? How do you feel about Charlie Kirk? How do you feel about that? And they all say, oh, I don't care, right? And so they're radicalized and numb to that kind of political violence. They'll support that. And then you get this other level of person who has been radicalized to the point of action. And that person is used, and they don't work alone. And we're going to talk about that at the end of the show as well. But you have to watch this. Go watch the series. It's really, really good. Every time I've shared the link, people have said this link doesn't work. So it's Bex on X, BX_on_X, and it's her pinned tweet. Check it out. But this is the number 4 at 18 minutes in.
individuals is connected to an Order of Nine Angles cutout group called Castle International. Castle claims to be a private military contracting company used to recruit people to fight in Ukraine. In reality, it's much more likely that the group operates as a honeypot to attract vulnerable people and extremists from militia and firearms communities online. One of the leaders of Castle International, an adult who goes by the name Mercury, was linked to a recent stabbing in Sweden, where a 14-year-old member of 764 randomly stabbed an elderly man and posted the video online. In his Telegram channel, Mercury bragged about his connection to the assailant, who went by the name Slain. The Sandman connected to Castle International claims to have a government job with a security clearance, and he glorifies mass shooters on Telegram. He's also connected to some of the same channels as Hayden Espinoza, and while all of these things fit the profile, the other Sandman has a similarly vile online footprint. Perhaps one or both of these men have been questioned by the FBI already, or perhaps the FBI didn't have enough ammo to build a case against them. Law enforcement authorities in America face several key challenges when investigating online extremists. The power of free speech extends to an individual's right to post repulsive and offensive things online, and even to the right to espouse hateful ideologies that include calls for racially motivated violence. Unless there's an explicit solicitation of terrorism involved, as there was in the recent case of Butcher, the leader of the foreign terrorist group MKU, many instances of online provocation prove difficult or even impossible to prosecute.
So I'm not arguing. Somebody in the chat, and thanks to everybody in the chat, says Carla Homolka. Right, Carla Homolka was the accessory to Bernardo, and Mahaffey was their victim, right? They killed Mahaffey, I believe. And so here, these guys are talking about how online calls for violence, grooming, it's very, very difficult to prosecute. When I say I'm concerned about an online harms act, I'm not arguing against doing something against what's going on here. I think we should be able to do something against what's going on here. What's going on here is jaw-dropping, and just it's probably the scariest docuseries I've seen in 25 and maybe in the last 5 years. It's jaw-dropping. You should check it out. I'm not arguing against I think probably law enforcement could step in here, but I think there's a reason law enforcement's not stepping in here. And I think the reason law enforcement's not stepping in here is because these people are connected, and maybe CIA, maybe even more connected than that. Who knows? I have no idea. But I think that there's an infrastructure that supports this, like the not the meth labs, the fentanyl labs. Like the cops go in and they clean out the lab, and then 2 days later, almost the same lab is set up almost in the same location, and the cops can't see it, right? They were like, well, we busted that one, it's done. And I think that it's in the same way. They're like, oh, we can't do anything about this. And so they bring in an online harms act, and then they say, we're gonna clean this stuff up, right? Whereas rational, normal people would say, how can you not do something about this? But they say, we're going to clean this stuff up, but then they don't clean this stuff up. Then they come and they raid my house as if I'm spreading unbelievable, jaw-dropping, terrible things like this, and I'm not, right? And so I'm reading headline news and speculating and being suspicious of it, right? And so like it's very, very concerning. This stuff going on is very concerning. I think that we have the criminal code is enough to deal with this stuff. It should be enough to deal with this stuff, but it may not be enough to deal with corrupt organizations, corrupt cops, corrupt structures. And so what do we do? Certainly not bring in the Online Harms Act, but they're going to, and they're going to say, we need to do these things because we can't prosecute these things otherwise. And I feel like it's a red herring, and we're going to lose ultimately. But I hope I'm wrong. I super duper hope I'm wrong. Pierre Poilievre says Mark Carney said he would be building at speeds not seen in generations, 6 months as prime minister, and he's not approved a single nation building project, only sending 5 proposals for future consideration to an office that is not even fully staffed. All show and no go. Right. Well, yeah, but that's the plan. That's the plan. We're supposed to be placated. We're supposed to shut up and be quiet about everything that's going on. And we're supposed to own nothing and be happy, right? As they destroy our country with bad policies, we're not supposed to notice it. And then Poilievre goes out and says, oh yeah, well, he's not actually doing what he said he was going to do. Carney lied every day of his campaign, and he's lied every day since. There's no reason to believe him, right? And so I don't know why Poilievre is voting for C5. Oh, to get things done that we wouldn't otherwise be able to get done with all these bad laws. So you gridlock it and you say, look at this guy who said he could come in and do this, and he can't do anything because of his own stupid laws that he refuses to repeal. Instead, he gave him a way out. Doesn't make any sense to me. Ridiculous. Ridiculous, Polyev. Mario says, breaking Canadian Tire. According to this whistleblower, Canadian Tire has let go nearly 800 people in the last month. Some of these jobs are being sent overseas to India. To add insult to injury, 362 people were let go via live stream. This is why Trump wants to impose a 25% tax on jobs sent to India. How is this any different than bringing in foreign workers? Instead of them coming here, we bring the jobs over to them. Canadian Tire made nearly $1 billion in profit last year. Right. So, I mean, it's quite interesting. Here's an update. Canadian Tire, it is likely a higher number of employees let go than 800. Most of the jobs in the last few weeks have all been corporate and IT. The reason given for firing was to reduce roles and headcount, but it just went to HCL Technologies Limited, an Indian company. I wager 40% is now contractors, probably hire via India. To make some of these firings worse, the people let go, in order to qualify for their severance, are being forced to train the staff that is replacing them. Add that to your post. So there you go. You have to train your replacement because your job still needs to get done. They've just sourced it out to somewhere else. Wild and crazy. And for your trucking, the government is going to spend $500,000, which is not very much money, on boosting diversity in Canada's trucking industry. Ha! The video link is Bex on X. So just go look up Bex, BX _ X, and you will, sorry, somebody in the chat just asked, where's the video link for the docuseries? Bex on X. That's her user thing, and it's her pinned one. Anyway, 401 Sparnich says, Liberal MP Patty Haydu announced the federal government will spend $500,000 on a project aimed to boost diversity in Canada's trucking industry. Why do you need to have diversity in Canada's trucking industry? This includes people with disabilities, visible minorities, women. When I was reading it the first time this morning, I thought visible minorities was somehow talking about like vision issues. And I was like, how are we having blind people become truckers? But visible minorities, women and Indigenous people. It seems insulting to constantly try and have these affirmative action money thrown around. And if I was a woman, I would say I don't need special money. I'm not in a diversity. Oh, what's it called? I'm not in a diversity category. I'm a woman. Like there's 50% of the population are women. So this is not a special category. This is women, right? Like, come on. And so I don't know. It's one of those things. Indigenous people, I feel like it's the same thing. We're all Canadians. We all have the same opportunities. We all should have the same shot at the job. And if you're an Indigenous person that you have a lot of trucking knowledge and or experience, and I'm a white guy with no trucking knowledge and experience, then you should probably get the job. But if I'm a white guy with tons of trucking experience and you're an Indigenous person with none, then I should probably get the job. It should be meritocracy. The best person for the job should get it. And then in that way, the things that we do in our country are better because we get the best person for the job, and that best person for the job sees efficiencies and ways to do it. Whereas if you give the job to, the best fill in the blank, right? The best visible minority, the best blind person, whatever, the best person, the best modifier for the job, then you're not getting the best person. And that person may not see something that the real best person for the job, the most experienced person, may see. And in that way, then you get traffic accidents and unsafe roads and a whole bunch of stuff, which is what we're seeing. And so incentivizing this with another $500,000 seems stupid. And well, Patty Haydu's stupid, so it's no surprise there. I've got an ostrich farm update for us, and then I've got to kill the stream. And the rest of the show is going to be really fun too. Viva Fry says, update in Universal Ostrich Farm. Apparently the government is introducing new evidence. It seems they miraculously resisted their December 2024 samples, or they miraculously retested their December 24 samples and now determined that the birds were in fact infected with an even deadlier strain of H5N1 in December 24, which means that the flock survived the even deadlier strain, if true. The government submitted new evidence nearly a year later. The only good news is that adding new evidence at this stage certainly requires a stay of the kill order so that the farm can respond to this new evidence. So it's a weird thing to do. I thought I was going to be announcing deaths, but the ostriches are still with us, and it doesn't seem like a rational thing to kill these ostriches from a test from December 24. And I think testing your birds at all is faulty. Did we learn nothing from the COVID tests? Like, what about false positives? Do you have to kill your whole flock for a false positive? Anyway, 240 days healthy, incredible herd immunity, beautiful ostriches. Rise Up Canada says waiting for an emergency stay order decision. Why Canada's sovereignty is at risk. Most people think our government makes decisions for us, especially when it comes to protecting Canadian farms, food, and animals. But in reality, many of these decisions are no longer fully Canadian. They're being directed by global organizations like the World Health Organization, the WHO, or the World Organization for Animal Health, and the United Nations under what's called the One Health agenda. What is One Health? On the surface, One Health sounds good. It's about linking human health, animal health, and the environment. But here's the catch. Countries like Canada agree to follow international rules on how to respond to disease outbreaks in animals. These rules include the stamping out policy, which means mass killing of animals when there's a suspected disease, even if they're healthy. Once Canada signs on, it's almost impossible for us to change those rules at home, even if we know that they don't make sense for our farms or farmers. What this means for farmers, if a small outbreak or even a suspected outbreak happens, farms can lose their entire heads of flock overnight. Canada farmers don't get a say. Parliament doesn't get a say. Even provinces don't get a say. The decision is made to keep trade partners happy and Canada in compliance. Farmers are left powerless. Canada loses control over its food system. Why this threatens Canadian sovereignty? We can't change our own policies to reflect Canadian realities, like protecting biodiversity, family farms, or rare species. Right, and this whole thing is already, I mean, not that it's already happened, but yeah, like we were watching all sorts of bad COVID policies being forced on Canadians through supranational organizations, this United Nations, World Health Organization. And if we are forced to be in compliance, then what sovereignty do we have, right? We can't say, no, we're going to solve this problem the way we want to solve this problem, which is to not kill these healthy birds. There's something else I was going to say, and I can't remember what it is now. And usually I'd pause it, but I'm live streaming, so it doesn't make sense. So I had one more thing to say about it, but I can't remember. It'll probably jump into my head later. Anyway, we've got to say goodbye to the live stream. Thanks for watching, everybody. You can get the whole show over at CanadaPoly.com. And if you don't want to watch it, no problems. We'll catch you tomorrow. For everybody else, we will carry on as soon as I kill this live stream. And that's all done. Okay, good. This is the major problems, major projects situation that Mark Carney is lying about, basically, I think. Gov.exe says, Mark Carney says shovels for high-speed rail could be in the ground in 4 years. 4 years! 4 years to get shovels in the ground for high-speed rail. That sounds super fast. No, not at all. Like 4 years? What? The government has already handed over $3.9 billion and not a single meter of track has been laid. This thing will end up costing Canada hundreds of billions of dollars and will never be completed. Truth. And here is an example of a scam that they're already running in Toronto. And gov.exe again says the Eglinton LRT has been under construction for 10 years. It is 19 kilometers long, has cost almost $13 billion and is still not complete. The Liberals want us to believe they can build an 800-kilometer highway or high-speed rail in a few years for $90 billion. You have to be pretty stupid to believe them. It's already cost us $3.9 billion and nothing's happened and no accountability. None. No accountability at all. Pretty wild stuff. Mark Nixon says, we are living through the biggest scam in Canadian history. Carney's projects of national interest, already worked on for years, just shuffled to a new bucket. And the kicker, we're paying Don Farrell $577,000 to rubber stamp it. Yep. Absolutely correct. 100% true. And we're the suckers. We are. Let's talk about crime, because what's going on in Calgary is just unbelievable. And I mean, indeed, the crime across Canada is unbelievable. YEG Wave says 26-year-old Calgary resident has been arrested after a 12-year-old Lethbridge girl was reportedly lured online and sexually assaulted. Police say the child was